Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kaustubh Vazalwar. I'm a director here with RSM Australia Cybersecurity, Resiliency, and Data Privacy Practice, and I'll be taking you all through the cybersecurity part of the session so far. And I think we've covered some really interesting topics till late, right? So we've gone through, obviously, artificial intelligence and data analytics to frauds and forensics, going down, obviously, to auditing and from a background management as well. Let's look at why cybersecurity, resiliency, and data privacy become important. Can we go to the next slide, please? And the next slide. Now, as we stand today, at the end of the day, cybersecurity, resiliency, as well as data privacy as functions, they're no longer just technical side issues. Where we sit today, especially from the government space, is that these specific issues sit at the very heart of public trust and service delivery within the Victorian government. Whether it's local councils, the state departments, whether it's universities, what we are seeing is an increasing amount of pressure from various different angles, right? From ransomware to insider threat issues, to supply chain issues, to ongoing state-sponsored attacks on critical infrastructure. And to add to that, obviously, there is a struggle to continue managing existing legacy infrastructure and applications, the pain to migrate legacy applications and utilize that with obviously cloud capabilities, and at the same time, constraints on resources. The reality is that we live today in an environment where a cyber attack can potentially happen within an organization in Australia every 39 seconds. This kind of an attack can potentially bring down critical services, essential capabilities, right from healthcare to education to waste management, effectively disrupting communities, effectively damaging reputations, and eroding the public trust and confidence. And that's why for Victorian government entities, the challenge is not just about preventing these incidents, but essentially about maintaining continuity of operations, maintaining resilience in the face of disruptions, and to be able to respond decisively. But it's not all bad news or really, these issues. There's also some positives for us to take away in the current environment. We're also looking at an existing situation whereby there is a recognition of this challenge and there is a commitment to actually, from the Victorian government, to invest in cybersecurity over the next 3 years to obviously improve and strengthen cyber defenses. These are not just obviously aiming to uplift maturity within government system, but also aiming to align the frameworks with obviously, industry standards, including local standards, like as VPDSS, the essential aids, the ISMs, but also embed resilience in terms of obviously the ongoing operations within the public sector. It is beyond compliance. It is essentially going to be focused on building the future-ready government that can protect citizen data, that can sustain critical services under pressure, and effectively, over the long run, set a benchmark for security and resilience across Australia. What we want to do, effectively working together with you, is to essentially translate those investments into real-world preparedness and help you achieve those measurable outcomes. Let's see how we actually are enabling organizations to do that. Can we go to the next slide, please? Let's start looking at some case studies and look at the challenges that we actually have helped solve in the last couple of years. So this one was focused on an extremely critical state department within Australia, specifically in the financial services sector, where there was an extreme concern in terms of the budgeting application. A legacy application being part of the system for a large number of years also had dependencies with external contractors, external service providers servicing it, lack of awareness internally in terms of end-to-end visibility of data flow, lack of awareness in terms of end-to-end incident management requirements, especially if something does go wrong during critical time periods of budgeting in the year. And more importantly, lack of confidence with the senior stakeholders in terms of capability to recover critical operations in case of actual incident, whether it's infrastructure, application, or a cyber incident. What we did today, effectively working together extremely closely with the key stakeholders that were nominated from this particular department, is to put together and work in a collaborative approach in a phase-wise manner. Right from a discovery phase for us to essentially understand and put together a gap assessment, essentially giving a view as to what is the current state practical view of the gaps from a people, process, and technology perspective, what kind of practical recommendations are important for us to implement from a control perspective, and what are the changes and improvement maturities needed to go from the targets from the current state to the target state. That followed up with obviously doing an end-to-end comprehensive business impact analysis, obviously with the business teams as well as with the technology teams, along with mapping the processes and understanding our upstream and downstream dependencies from an application perspective, including working together with some external stakeholders who are involved as part of the engagement. Obviously, that helped us drive down to the critical recovery parameters, develop the appropriate documentation from not only the disaster recovery perspective, but the business continuity, as well as cybersecurity incident response perspective with dedicated playbooks and plans. And at the end of the day, conduct comprehensive testing, not only from an infrastructure perspective, but also from specific scenarios that were deemed appropriate and critical from a risk management perspective for the department. Test it with the executives, test it with the third parties, test it with the operational teams to really give a confidence back to the team that yes, we can recover capabilities and we can continue even if it is during critical budgeting time period. Let's look at the next one. Can we change the slide, please? Yeah. So this is for one of the large government councils that we worked together, essentially focusing on uplifting their capabilities from an end-to-end resilience perspective. Again, this council had gone through a range of different critical issues which had impacted their critical operations and services, especially towards the citizens of the community. They had gone through a number of infrastructure problems, some resourcing changes, including obviously structural organization changes, which had really, again, dented the confidence within the management team to be able to continue operations in case there is either a small or a large scale incident. Similar to the previous case, we again worked extremely closely with the nominated stakeholders within the council across business and technology and third-party teams, starting with a discovery approach to understand what are the critical capabilities, what are the critical requirements from that perspective, what are specific needs from a recovery perspective, what are the dependencies, mapping them from a process perspective, even going down to the range of whiteboarding them, to really developing plans, procedures, and playbooks which are relevant, timely, and most importantly, practical based upon the organization's, in this case, the council's risk management framework. In the end, again, we developed specific focus scenarios which were deemed relevant for the council based upon previous incidents that had happened to actually test them out this time differently and see how councils act and how the council could actually react based upon plans that were developed now and plans that were ready to actually implement, and again see the comprehensiveness in terms of their capability to respond and readiness to be able to manage any critical incident. Can we go to the next slide, please? The next one is again focused on the education sector, where we have been working together for a number of years now on a leading university in Australia, focusing on helping them uplift their cybersecurity and maturity. In this case, this particular university has been on a journey, essentially going through uplifting their capabilities, aligning to industry standards, but at the same time, obviously improving its organizational strategies and approach towards managing cyber risk, managing critical student data, obviously ensuring data privacy of critical research that has been done, and ensuring compliance to the relevant requirements as well. Again, they chose an extremely complex framework, in fact, more than one, 853, as well as the cybersecurity framework, to essentially align their capabilities internally. Again, we took a multi-phased approach to essentially do an analysis and understand what the critical gaps were, develop prioritized critical roadmap going down from quick wins to obviously long-term wins for the organization, help them implement that over a period of time, but also review their strategy from a cybersecurity perspective, align and understand their gaps from a perspective of overall organizational strategy and their key targets, and help them actually improve and mature that. And we have seen that improvements come across a range of ways with reduced number of risks, with reduced number of incidents, with much more improved time to recover, time to manage incidents, and overall improved maturity across security operations over the last 3 years, which is a great positive win for us to take away. Finally, as we essentially start going to next step, can we go to next steps? Next slide, please. What do we have as a call to action? What do we do essentially, right? As we start going through the various details, I do want to leave with one very clear message. In the world that we stand today, cyber incidents are always going to be the inevitable as to the matter of when. What really sets critical, resilient entities apart is not just how they respond to incident, but how well they prepare, how quickly they recover, and how confidently they are able to continue serving their communities. The government's commitment to obviously invest in this particular space over the next 3 years is already a vital step in the right direction. But what the real value will come across is how effectively each department, each council, each organization, each educational institute embeds these practices into everyday operations, tests continuity planning, and obviously ensures stronger governance. This is exactly where we can actually help you with our experience and expertise essentially in this space, right from obviously uplifting your capabilities to align to the right set of frameworks, designing and testing plans, playbooks, and procedures, to essentially strengthening your supply chain and third-party risk management, to obviously ensuring ongoing awareness from an ongoing operations perspective. At the end of the day, it is beyond technology, right? It is essentially about safeguarding critical services, protecting citizen data, and for us to work together to enforce and reinforce public trust. Together with that particular right planning execution, we can actually set that benchmark and work together to help you achieve that goal.